Everybody for inviting me tonight. It's indeed my pleasure to be here with you. As Bobby mentioned, my grandmother was born in Jay. Sometimes she'd say Jay and sometimes she'd say McDavid, but her father and her grandfather were both in Turpentine, all of them here, and her grandfather was Benjamin Franklin Dixon. And both of these handouts, if you didn't get a handout, by the way, let me know, there's some left, discuss Ben Dixon's relationship with Railroad Bill. He and a guy named Hughes were in Turpentine together in North Carolina, South Carolina. It's a migrant business, and they ended up in Baldwin County and then Bluff Springs, Florida, and you know the rest of the story. He brought Railroad Bill with him, along with 3 Thomas brothers, and they figure significantly in the book. So we'll discuss that a little bit. But the book is published by the University Press of Florida. I've started the research just as a hobby. 6 years later, I decided I had all these research notes. I finally made sense of the story and put it all together like a puzzle. And I thought, well, I needed to at least document it, and the publisher was kind enough to publish it for me. Railroad Bill is the most famous African-American outlaw of the 19th century. What made him famous, though, was the song. Railroad Bill is a really, really popular ballad, and one musician that had a document from said that it had been sung by 1 million people in 1 million different ways. He is the subject also of extensive folklore. Many people believe that he was a mythical figure, but he was a true individual, and he's from right here, operated right here. So we'll get into it. The ballad Railroad Bill was first published by the Atlanta Constitution in 1895, and at that time it was a period when Railroad Bill was running wild and the law couldn't catch him. And about 1920s, the song had become so popular throughout the South, and was sweeping the South, that this Negro Black ballad, that it became a commercial product, and a number of authors published it commercially. If you go to YouTube, you can find those old recordings. This one is by Rhoda Stanley and Bob Stanley, 1925. This song was being recorded in vinyl in 1972. All along, it just never ended. It was made famous in Europe by the king of Skittle. And today, if you look on the web, you'll see a Railroad Bill skiffle book, skiffle group, skiffle meaning ballad in British terminology. And they're still operating today. You can find them on YouTube too. It all goes back to the Turpentine employee that worked with my great-great-grandfather, Mr. Hughes, and Thomas brothers, all of whom met a very violent end. And that's what this story is about. My interest, because of 2 different stories that my mother merged into one. She believed all her life that Railroad Bill had killed her great-grandfather. And it was only after I was grown and began to research Railroad Bill I realized that wasn't the case. But my mother's family would not, or father would not allow, she was from a family of 12 siblings, to talk of Railroad Bill or anything that had to do with the mother's side of the family. So because of that, mother was never corrected, and only when I began to do research did I learn the truth. And the 2 stories are when Mother was about 10 years old, she was with her grandmother, and her grandmother took her aside, and underneath the mattress of her bed, there were two items. There was a thick leather-like skirt, as Indians would wear, and there was a shirt. The shirt had bullet holes in it. It was the shirt Ben Dixon was wearing when he was killed. And the grandmother explained the stories to my mother. The stories are that Sheriff McMillan was killed by Railroad Bill, or shot by Railroad Bill, and he lay in the right-of-way for a railroad track until my great-great-grandfather, a guy named Wallace, that the posse had been staying with, and another fellow who was named Thomas Johnson. He was a detective, undercover detective from up north, who was in Alabama and Florida searching for Railroad Bill. They went out and they retrieved Sheriff McMillan, who died several hours later. Took him to a nearby house and he died. And interestingly, 4 days later, Thomas Johnson, the detective, shot and killed my great-great-grandmother. Well, when in the 20s, when Mother was about 10 years old, listening to these stories, she confused them. At that time, Railroad Bill, the song, was very popular. My grandfather played a banjo, and it was one of the songs that they sang, he and other neighbors with instruments. And Mother somehow confused the truth and believed Railroad Bill killed Ben Dixon. So much for hearsay history. So the intent of this book is to try to lay out the details that can be documented of the real life of the real Railroad Bill. And it's quite a story, a very interesting story. Interestingly enough, as popular as he was, as much as was reported about him during his lifetime, I had probably 500-600 newspaper articles on him. There's never been a definitive book written about him. Neil Collier, I started writing Neil Collier back in the 1990s, and Neil would say, I wrote me one time saying, you know, I've read the stories, but they don't make any sense. And I thought about that a lot while I was my 6-year track of putting this together. One reason there might not have been a book is, interestingly, Alabama had a law preventing any book being published on an outlaw at that time in the 1896 era. Also, I think part of the deal is that the story, if Railroad Bill had been in the West, the writers in the North, because most of the desperados of the West were glorified by writers in New York and Chicago and the Northeast, I think we would have all known Railroad Bill. There'd been plenty of books and that sort of thing. But here in this part of the country, that didn't happen for various reasons. What existed when I got into it, it invariably had mistakes. The only testament, so to speak, we had was by a detective, and he made a lot of mistakes in what he wrote. He wrote maybe 30 years after the fact, and he had come into the chase for Railroad Bill very late. And as a result, you read in the book, there's a lot of violence that was credited to Railroad Bill. It was really conducted by the Thomas brothers, one of whom killed the Marshal of Bluff Springs the year before Railroad Bill shot Sheriff McMillan, or a year or two. Anyway, so